Hi everybody, it's Tom from Vehicle Visionary. Today I'm at Holmes Honda and we're going to do a comparison side by side of the 5th generation of the Honda CR-V and the 6th generation of the Honda CR-V. Now there are some differences between the two. This is the Hybrid Sport over here to my right. Obviously we do not have a hybrid version here to my left, but not a big deal. We'll still be able to do quite a nice comparison between the two. And looking from this particular angle gives us our first big difference. Overall length and wheelbase. Wheelbase is measured from the center of one tire to the center of the other. For those who say that it's measured anything other than that, that's not true. The way you know that is that the wheelbase remains the same on all of these vehicles no matter what wheel size they have, because some wheels are bigger than others. That doesn't change the wheelbase itself. 1.6 inches longer in wheelbase for the 2023 version, and then bumper to bumper overall length increases by 2.7 inches. The overall width from the 5th generation to the 6th generation increases by 0.4 inches. Maybe this angle gives you a little bit better idea of that just a tick under half an inch difference in width between the two. But I tell you what, you can sure see a difference in the overall design when we look at the front ends on each one. A lower stance with the 6th generation with the 23 model over here. The grille is going to be wider, have that honeycomb look. And even though you have the honeycomb look on the bottom portion of the upper grille and definitely on the lower grille down there, that's about the only area between the two where there are going to be similarities is going to be on that lower grille. Here on the 23, you've got the active air curtain right here. You're going to have the surround on the vent right here as well, even though that vent itself is not active, just to show you what's there. We do have, again, some differences here. Fog lights here, but you can see the difference in trim that works its way from the bumper around to the lower portion here. In fact, we don't really even have the same look here. We do have a little bit of a lower spoiler right here. And overall, a big difference in the headlight housings and the design. I really like what Honda has done to go away from this look, kind of an older look. When you look over here at the new LED headlights, definitely a different look. Looks far more modern. The daytime running lights and the blinker housing up there as well. And then looking at the differences in the hood, it kind of almost looks to a degree that some of the weight was shifted around a couple of different ways. So the differences between the two. Here on the 22 model, you're going to notice how the fender flares up, it flattens out, comes up to the hood line. It's going to take a little bit of an angle and then works its way down to the nice large bulge in the middle. However, when we look at the 23 model, that's a whole different design. With the fender, it's going to work its way up. It kind of indents a little bit, comes up with a rise at an angle that continues onto the hood before we hit a peak, work our way down, and then even a little bit more of a valley right here until it has a small rise, and then that gives way to the large bulge in the center of the hood. An overall difference in the look, that's for sure. You also will see a difference in the side fenders as well. So I can't give you as good of a look. Let's change angles and I'll give you a better idea. All right, that is a lot better. In fact, this angle gives us a little bit of a different view as to how you can tell the difference in the fact that you have a little bit lower profile, a little bit more of an aggressive stance with the 23 model compared to the 22 that we have right here. You can see the difference in the front ends. The front end a little bit longer, more squared off, even though you still have the surround of the fenders still being round on both. But the nose actually increases a little bit in length. And then taking a look here, you can also see some of the differences in the design of the headlights as well, even though we really covered that earlier. But the difference is going to be seen in this area and right here. And then when it comes to the overall look of the side view mirrors, there is somewhat of a difference there. You can't necessarily see a lot, but there is actually a complete difference when you look right here. Look at how it comes up off the body right here compared to the two. This area a little bit more narrow than what we have here. That one comes straight out. This has a little bit of an angle to it. And then The design of the mirror itself, the mirror housing with the mirror cap, is going to come back and actually have a sharper drop right here. So the lines, a little more aggressive, a little more rounded off, a little more aerodynamic. You will have the turn signal indicator built in right here. And taking a look from the side profile, trying to give you the best view possible of both. You can see that the windows on the 23 actually a little bit longer, a little bit taller, I guess would be the best way to put it. A little bit more height to that than what we have on the 22 model over here. You'll also see differences in the quarter window back here as far as the design, how it just takes that slope all the way up. It's still going to have a little bit of that angle over here on the 23 model, just not quite as much. Still going to have that chrome surround, but a larger window overall. So I mean, it's a little bit easier to see out of. And I think, at least in my view, I don't know about yours on the screen, you can definitely tell the difference in the overall length of both vehicles, being that the 23 is, like I said earlier, 2.7 inches longer overall length from bumper to bumper. Body color doors on both, but still a little bit of a different design. You can see that this is just basically a flat area right here. No real character lines. I know it's kind of hard to see through all that dirt. It got rained on last night, but here you can see it a little bit better. You've got some lines right here, a different shape. It's going to have a whole different look. In fact, this area right here is actually larger than what we have over here. That might not mean much, but when you reach in there, it's actually easier for somebody with a larger hand to reach around the entirety of the door handle. From this particular angle, I think it's very easy to see the differences in the design of the rear. The rear window looks like it's a little bit more, it has a little more depth to it here than we have on the 22 model. The rear window wiper actually has shrunk up a little bit. It's a little smaller there. This one's a little longer on the 22 model. We don't have that chrome accent piece anymore. And the overall design of the taillights has definitely changed. So let's take a look at what those differences are. When you consider this area right here on the 23 model, it comes up about to the same place, but it's narrow. It's narrowed up compared to what it was before. This section that works its way up into the bodywork has actually shrunk. It's not as long, but it actually has a little bit more height to it, quite a bit more height to it between the two. Hopefully that shows up properly on the screen for you. And then on the rear of the taillights, as we look at the overall design, how everything works its way over and then up right here on the 23 model, it just comes straight across. There's more of an angle that comes down, and then you have the drop right here, and then we work our way to the bottom, but it doesn't quite come to the same position as it does over here on the 22 model. Differences also in the design of the rear roof spoiler. You can see that as well. This one's a little bit more cleaned up, consistent all the way across with its design. And what I mean by that is you're going to notice the differences right here. You have a little bit of a rise up to this area, and then the lines actually drop just a tiny bit and work their way down to a flat portion of that rear roof spoiler. Over here, everything is consistent from one side to the other, except for with these areas right here on this rear piece. And then, like I said, this rear window wiper has actually lost some size. You can see that this one is a little bit longer, and its overall size is a tick more than what we have on the 23. Also on the rear, we're going to see that we have the exhaust finishers. Now keep in mind, this is the hybrid version. It does have the 4-cylinder engine under the hood paired with the electric motors, but we don't have that look here. You can see the exhaust pipes if you stoop down low enough, but that is the difference. But one of the biggest differences is going to be found throughout the interior. Let's talk about what those differences are. And obviously, if we didn't have the hybrid version here, there would be even more differences, a little bit more cargo space, but overall cargo has increased, I should say, cargo capacity from the 22 to the 23 by 3.1 cubic feet. And the differences here, when we go from the 22, we can look at the design here. You're gonna have kind of an older look here with the interior lighting for this area. That really does look old school. You can still pull on the handles back here to lower your rear seats and maximize cargo capacity. But over here, everything looks more modern, including the lights. They've gone to LED right here, brighter light, gonna have more space back here. And you can see the differences in the design of those quarter windows right there. And let's see if we can show you that over here. Not that it's that big of a deal, but just to show you, these are the differences between the two models, depending on what it is you may want to buy. If you want to go with the 5th generation over here or the 6th generation, these are some of the differences you can expect to find. One thing you won't find here with the 6th generation, notice that there is no handle to grab onto to actually lower those rear seats. Now you will use what's on the seat itself up there. If your arm's long enough, you could reach that from back here if you wanted to, or you'll have to go into the interior to make that change to maximize cargo capacity. Max cargo capacity is going to be 37.6 up to 75.8 cubic feet with the CR-V. Now this is not going to be the hybrid numbers that I'm giving you, just the max cargo capacity for the CR-V. This is for the 2022 model, and for the 2023 version of the CR-V, those numbers jump up to 39.3 cubic feet up to a max 76.5. And if you're wondering about the differences in the remote style, going to have all the same features and functionality, but you can see the 22 remote is on the left, the 23 remote is on the right. Definitely some big differences in overall design. And what an easier way than side by side on the differences for the door panels. You can definitely see the difference. You're going to have the wood grain paneling trim right here. You're going to have the surround for the door handle right there. Totally different setup right here as far as the trim goes above and around the door handle. And we're going to see some differences in the overall design between the two, with not only the armrest right here, as you can see, it's a little bit higher up and a little bit longer, it looks like, on the 23 model. In fact, that door is actually a little bit longer than what we have here. Part of that design is the same, but the overall elements have changed. And differences between the door bins here. This door bin is actually larger on the 23 model, excuse me, the 22 model right here. You can see this area right here, that is all the door bin. On the 23, this is all you get, so not quite as much space where that is concerned. That's large enough to where I don't think it's going to make a big difference, but just so you can see the differences, well, there they are. And we'll hop here into the interior. We're going to have the fold-down armrest on the 5th generation with the cup holders built in right there, the air conditioning vents on the rear of the center console, and that will be finished out by 2 USB ports. Again, something I always like to bring out. Car makers, you need 3 of those back there because you have seating for 3. Here is the sunroof and what that looks like for 2022 for the 5th generation. And we'll move our way over to the 6th generation. Here's what the armrest, the fold-down armrest, will look like. Cup holders right there. And the difference, there is a different design overall between the two models. Here on the 6th generation, you can see the difference. You're still going to have the dual air conditioning vents and the dual USB ports. I do like the fact that you don't have to raise any covers or anything to expose those USB ports and gain access to them. The sunroof, well, basically the same. I know for those of you who are hoping for a panoramic sunroof, maybe a little disappointed here. Not necessarily a big deal, but it is what it is. That's what you have. And the difference between the doors as we take a look in through the driver's side door, well, we'll take a look more on the 23 model to see what has changed, but obviously there are some differences. Across the dashboard, everything has changed, I think, for the better. The instrument cluster here, while it looks nice, it's not going to have on the 23 model the surround that you have right here, kind of separating everything apart, kind of these pillars right here that separate where the gas gauge is and all the information here, and then everything over here. So depending on the situation, you may or may not like that depending on your taste. But the biggest difference overall is going to be the screen, mainly because we have this screen at a little bit of an angle. For the 23 over there, you'll see that it's at a 90 degree, so it's parallel basically to everything. It's standing straight up. The shifter position has changed. Just the overall design has changed, as has everything we're going to have down here. Everything that's up here has now moved down into this area. And let's get over there and take a quick look, because I think it will be very obvious to you what's changed where that is concerned, as with what we see with the steering wheel design. Let's go over and take a look at the 23. Now it should be pretty easy to see the differences between the door panels. You can see that kind of like what we saw on the rear doors, you don't have that wood grain paneling up here on the top. Everything's kind of narrowed up a little bit. And another big difference, I didn't point it out over on the 22 model, but on that 22 model, you had to reach down to this area to release the steering wheel where you could adjust it tilt and telescopically. Now it's on the side right here. So there's a difference also with this honeycomb design, not only on the air conditioning vents, but obviously all the way across the dashboard. Very similar to what we've seen with the 2022 and newer models of the Civic. Now it will be a lot easier for you to see the differences with this new digital dashboard. Totally different design, updated. It looks like what's in the Civic, but you don't have those pillars in the middle, those little pieces to separate everything apart. I think that looks better. It's more cleaned up. But like I said, here is the biggest difference. Let's get that off so it's easier for you to see. And don't mind the blinking that you see right there. That has to do with my camera more than anything else. Almost said phone, but you can see the difference of what I'm talking about here with this 90-degree vertical touchscreen. It's at a completely different angle. It's not going to have the problems with the glare that the previous generation did. That's going to make a difference. It's just easier to use, and its angle and where it's located is actually meant to be more in the line of sight with the driver for where it's located and being able to still see everything in front of them when they're driving down the road. So if you have to look down at the touch screen here, well, you still have a good opportunity or option to see the road the way that you should. It is what it is as far as all that goes. Differences obviously in this entire area because now the air conditioning controls are all right here. Again, reminiscent of the 11th generation of the Civic. Here is where the shifter is now located and all of the controls for things such as driving modes and all of that. In fact, you're going to have improved graphics where that's concerned. Sport, we're going to have normal, we're going to have econ, and snow modes. You can see the different graphics for each one. Let me give you some time to see that instead of just rushing through those, just so you can see what comes up on the instrument cluster. And for this particular model, we are going to have basically the same rear view camera, the same multi-view rear view camera that we've had on both models or have on both models. So that hasn't really changed a whole lot. There's your positioning for the cup holders and the center console. This center console, I think, is a little bit lower than the previous model, the 22 model. I don't know that that's that big of a deal. Honestly, would you rather have seen that come up a little bit higher to be easier to use as an armrest, or are you happy with how that looks? And a little bit of bonus material for those of you who made it to this point in the video. The starting price for the 2022 model was $26,800. That jumps up to $31,110 for 2023. So tell me what you think down in the comments. What do you think about the comparison? Which generation of the CR-V do you like better? Tell me all about it down in the comments as to why you answered the way that you did. I'm curious to know. Got to say a special thanks to my friends at Holmes Honda for loaning me both of these CR-Vs for the day, and a special thanks to all of you for being kind enough to give me the opportunity to give you a vision for your next vehicle. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn about other vehicles you may wish to consider purchasing, check out the video that's on the screen right now, and I will see you there.